Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Lane Kiffin and the Ole Miss Rebels really getting it done on the high school recruiting trail. And this is a team that I think Lane Kiffin did a phenomenal job kind of retooling this team from a talent standpoint in the transfer portal after his first couple of years. But now once he's got this roster to his spot, he's turning his attention to the high school trail and starting to clean it up, especially in the state of Mississippi, landing five-star defensive lineman Kamarion Franklin, one of my favorite prospects in this 2024 class, the number one player in Mississippi, according to the 24/7 Sports Composite. For Ole Miss fans and where this program is going under Lane Kiffin, there's a lot to be excited about. Going to get into Kamarion Franklin, talk a little bit about how Lane Kiffin is building out this roster. Before we do, again, just want to say thank you to you guys. The support, talking recruiting, it's no secret we love talking recruiting. You guys have shown a ton of love to the boys. So if you do enjoy the content, you enjoy the updates, consider subscribing to the channel. But more importantly, we're kind of going to dive into the question about how Lane Kiffin is going about building this roster. Would love to hear from you guys in terms of balancing the transfer portal and the high school recruiting trick classes. So let us know in the comment section what you guys think. Dale, I'm going to kick this one off to you. Massive win for Lane Kiffin in this 2024 class.
And to me, if Lane Kiffin and this Ole Miss team is going to start bridging the gap between them and in the top teams, the Georgias, the Alabamas, the LSUs, these are the battles they just need to win a little more consistently. And you've seen them do it, especially in the state. I mean, Sunshine Perkins last year, Aiden Williams, those are the type of players that they just need to be able to recruit probably more of them through the high school rankings. They've had relatively small classes in the past few years. But I do think at the end of the day, as much as you can fill in cracks with the transfer portal, and they've obviously done an incredible job with that, I think in terms of building out your whole roster, it does probably need to come from high school recruiting and developing guys.
That's kind of exactly where I'm at. When Lane Kiffin took over this program, I think he went to the transfer. He obviously went to the transfer portal very heavily to kind of build this. You got it to a point where you're talented enough to win 7-8 games. How do you take that next step? Especially take it like recruiting the state of Mississippi. This is a massive win. But how you take that next step is starting to recruit out of the high school ranks a little bit more effectively. And you look back at the 2023 class and you look at this 2024 class, he's starting to do that. And that's kind of what you said, how you bridge the gap and kind of get up to that top end of these SEC programs. I want to get into Kamarion Franklin because he is like one of my favorite prospects in this class. He's a guy that, talk about Ole Miss, you're always going to get the athletes on the offensive side of the ball. There is probably not a better evaluator of talent than Lane Kiffin. You saw the picture of him sitting alone, scouting Quinshawn Judkins, saying, hey, this guy's a dog. And yeah, he turns out to be a dog. But on the defense, getting those difference makers, that's probably the biggest and most important question about bridging that gap. Kamarion Franklin going to go a long way in kind of making that happen.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It probably is mostly the defense in terms of like building out that whole unit. Is they need to be more physical. They're at times it feels like the top end defensive talent hasn't quite been there for Ole Miss. I mean, you talk like him, Perkins, like these are the type of guys who I think you can start to bridge that gap with.
100%. And Kamarion Franklin, you're seeing him, like you go back and he's a guy that can work from the edge. I think he's an elite edge rusher, but he's all the way up to like 275 pounds. He's a guy that you can move all along the line of scrimmage. He's going to be a force in the run game. But in terms of like an interior 3-tech pass rusher as well, I mean, Kamarion Franklin certainly can get the job done. This is a guy that you talk about. We had this very similar conversation with Tennessee. There you go. Swim move, using the length. His athleticism for his size is absolutely freaky. But you talk about, and I kind of want to bring this to the 2024 class, Dill, you talk about like the similar conversation we've had with Tennessee in terms of, all right, how does Tennessee take that next step? It's getting the difference makers on the defensive side of the ball. There's going to be a line out the door for guys wanting to play for this Ole Miss offense. All right, can you get the guys on the defensive side to really get it going?
And especially like have those guys like play through the program and be the guys. Yes. I mean, right now you see a lot like they bring in Brown from Central Michigan and add Pegas through the portal and Isheem Young through the portal. Like they've obviously brought a lot of guys who are kind of their top end guys. Otis Reese, you could talk about from Georgia. I think I want to start seeing like, again, Jeffrey Rush, Kamarion Franklin, Sunshine Perkins kind of rise through the ranks and be the leaders, be the stars of these defenses. Because so far you've kind of seen the portal guys take the lead. I think the way they're recruiting or starting to recruit now with some of these real top end really high quality players out of the classes. I'd like to think that changes the defensive culture a little bit to where they're a little bit more stingy, a little bit more tough, a little more physical. All those things I think you need to see from this team.
And you also add someone like Pete Golden, who I really do think is one of the better coordinators in the country, certainly as a recruiter and all what he did at Alabama. Having that track record is certainly going to help. I kind of want to dig in a little bit more to the conversation of like going forward. I mean, Ole Miss has taken 20 plus transfers every single cycle. Like, do you think how do you think that number goes down? Because I think you're still going to see Lane Kiffin attack the transfer portal, especially at the skill groups. Like, you can find a dime a dozen of guys like really good wide receivers in the transfer portal, especially guys that kind of get slept on, like Franklin, Trey Harris. But I think it's a lot harder to find the guys in the trenches through the transfer portal that can kind of make some noise. I wonder if Lane Kiffin is going to kind of really start hammering and getting these guys like a Suntarine Perkins, like a Jeffrey Rush, like a Kamarion Franklin at the high school ranks, but still like go and find like just top end wide receivers in the transfer portal.
Well, I don't want to make this seem like he shouldn't go hit the portal. I mean,
Yeah,
any
exactly.
college football coach worth of salt should be in the portal addressing the issues they have, because it is. I mean, when you can bring some of those type of guys in who fit your scheme and or not fit your scheme, but fill your holes that you have, and in that, I mean, every team has them for the most part, aside from maybe Georgia, who seems like they're like perfect team year in and year out. But pretty much every other team has their things that they need to improve on, and the transfer portal is a quick way to do it. So I don't want to say like Lane Kiffin shouldn't be attacking it, but I do think fundamentally if they're going to start just being team to team competitive with Alabama year in and year out, they do need to have a higher floor of what they're doing in the high school ranks, just because that's how you fill your depth in and have a team of 2-3 units that can all play really quality football.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Like you want the primary way to build your roster through getting guys out of the high school ranks, getting them in the program, and developing them. That's how you kind of sustain success. And then, like as you go, hey, we need to add another wide receiver. We need to add another tight end through the portal. That's a quick way to kind of like fill in that hole that you didn't really have 5 years ago. I'm a massive fan of what Lane Kiffin's doing, especially early on. Like you're seeing Hugh Freeze do this.
They should be able to recruit, I think, high school a little better, because they are becoming a team.
And
they're pretty they're very, very competitive year in and year out with the top dogs of the SEC West.
And you're starting to see them do that, I think, which is the most exciting part. I mean, landing Jeffrey Rush, Kamarion Franklin, two of the top Mississippi prospects, going back to last year, landing the top two guys in Williams and Perkins in the 2023 class, locking down that state of Mississippi, being that team where you want to go if you're a top player, you want to go to Ole Miss, and then being able to go out and kind of fill in this class in SEC territory. This is an attractive program. I think Lane Kiffin's probably one of the better recruiters on the trail as well, as he kind of flips his attention from, all right, we got our roster to a base level through the portal, now to kind of fill in and kind of chase down the teams like Georgia, Alabama, LSU. We got to start recruiting at the high school ranks. And one other guy I just wanted to kind of shout out before we close out, Jimothy Lewis, a commit to Mississippi State, another top guy. He was from Mississippi, transferred down to IMG. He's another guy that I think is going to be flipping to Ole Miss. And so you talk about building the high school ranks, especially in the trenches. Lane Kiffin certainly do that. A lot of exciting things for Ole Miss fans heading into the future. Again, appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.